Hello, everyone, and thank you again for joining me today on the Happy PharmD podcast. Today's episode, I think, is going to be very helpful for those of you out there who are either contemplating finding a coach for yourself to grow career-wise and personally, or even if you think that possibly being a coach or somewhere in that realm of profession on top of being a pharmacist, or potentially making that transformation into doing something entrepreneurial on your own full-time. I think today's episode will be really helpful with a lot of useful information and hearing it from someone who did that personally. Without further delay, I'd love to welcome pharmacist Christina Tarantola. Welcome to the Happy PharmD podcast. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you so much. And you said my name perfectly.
Not
everybody can do that. I get Tarantula, Tarantella, all these different names.
I practiced before. I tried. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I guess we'll start out today's episode. If you just want to give us a quick introduction or brief bio about yourself, where you're from, where you went to school, career-wise, and where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. So you picked up on my Long Island accent right away within the first couple sentences. So that's really great. So yeah, I'm originally from Long Island and I went to St. John's University. So, everybody knew. They were like, even at St. John's, they were like, where are you from? Like, Long Island, you're in my territory here. But, I went through St. John's and my dad was a pharmacist and I worked at his pharmacy for 10 years, sweeping floors and, helping old ladies find cards and all of those things, and, worked my way up through it being an intern and then being a pharmacist. And I was always kind of a rebel. Like, I knew that I wanted to think outside the box, do things a little bit differently. And I always felt at my dad's pharmacy that there wasn't enough time to really interact with patients because you were always filling prescriptions or ringing people up and all of that. And that was really something that I craved. And I knew that I didn't want to stay in retail. I knew that I wanted to do something different. So I actually applied for a residency and I wound up, ironically enough, being in a community pharmacy residency. But I actually learned a lot about entrepreneurship during that year. And during that time, I was going through some health challenges of my own. I had eating disorders and just a lot of anxiety and depression and a lot of things personally going on. So it was a big motive for me to help people to not medicate when possible, because I saw that, I was, therapy and medications and all these different things, nothing helped me feel better. So while I was going through my residency, I actually did Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which is pretty, if you've ever done a residency, that alone is a lot of work. So
of course,
crazy me, I wanted to add some more onto my plate during that time. But it really was the impetus for what I'm doing now, because it helped me to see things from the perspective of a business owner. So I learned different coaching mechanisms and, about dietary theories and all of these different things. And so I was a health coach for a while, for about 5 years. And as I was healing myself, I was helping other people as well. And I got really interested in alternative therapies. So energy work, quantum physics, hypnotherapy. And I started to realize that those were really the needle movers for people, because when we're just treating a problem from the surface level, like I could go in and tell somebody who has diabetes, hey, these are the recommendations that I have for you. But if there's different layers of resistance for whatever reason, they're not going to absorb it. They're not going to implement and actually do it. So I became really fascinated with coaching and different ways to help people to get healthier in general. So I'm a total nerd, and I've researched for the past 7 years now. And so now what I do is I really help women specifically to get out of their own way. I talk to so many women and pharmacists every week who, they want to start a business, or they have a big vision for their life, but then the self-doubt comes in, or the fear of being seen, or procrastination, all of these barriers that get in the way. And I feel like, especially with business coaching right now, what I've seen in my own experience, because I've hired business coaches before, is not they don't always have that transformation element, which I feel like is so powerful, because I would say 90% of following through with anything is really your mindset behind it and the energy and how you're feeling about it. So that's really my motivation now, is to help women to pretty much get out of their own way and stop self-sabotaging so that they can pretty much do what they're here on earth to do. So I'm really passionate about that. And I don't know if that was 5 or 10 minutes of
Oh,
talking.
no, you're good. You're good. Well, I was going to ask, so is it mainly pharmacists, or is it women in general, or
Yeah. So
medical professionals?
right now I do coach a lot of pharmacists who are in retail pharmacy. And as we know, there's an extremely high burnout rate. And I was a retail pharmacist, so I totally get that, working 12-hour shifts back to back with no breaks and not getting, again, it comes back to that. Like, I love having time with people and being able to see actual transformation versus kind of putting a Band-Aid over a problem. So I feel like that for me is the most fulfilling. And yeah, I think a lot of pharmacists don't even know that this is a possibility. I didn't even know that I could be a coach. So I think that's really a niche that I've tapped into, is really helping women to realize that, yes, you can absolutely replace your income and be a coach and spend more time with your family and have more freedom and fulfillment. And it doesn't mean that you have to completely abandon your pharmacy career, because I still use a lot of that information. But I believe in, when you're doing your soul's work and why you're here, there's no better feeling than that. So I love helping people get to that place and bring their unique gifts online. So that's different for everybody.
So are you doing your coaching business and everything 100%, or are you also practicing as a pharmacist?
No, it's 100% coaching. Yeah.
That's awesome. And when did you make that transition? How long ago?
So last year, I was working for a retail corporate chain, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I was so burnt out, and I was trying to run my business on the side. And I just said to myself, I have to cut this off. And I hired a coach. And I wish that I would have done that sooner. That's one of the biggest things that I recommend for people who want to become entrepreneurs, is you need guidance, some type of mentorship, guidance, support. You can't just read a book about it. Because that's what I did, right? Like, my stubborn me, I'm like, oh, I don't need a coach. Like, I can just figure it out, and here, there I was 5 years later, still stuck in the same patterns, never figuring out, okay, how do I build a simple structure for a business? Or how do I put myself out there and magnetically call in my soulmate clients? I never learned those things until I hired my coach. So that was really a big needle mover for me.
And how did you make that leap? Like, I guess in terms of what stopped you from doing it earlier? And when you decided to do it, I'm sure the biggest thing was fear, probably income, or just leaving what you knew, right? You said you were in retail for how many years?
So probably at least six years.
Enough to kind of make that kind of a habit and, your comfort zone, because you kind of knew it to perfection. And then all of a sudden you wanted to make the huge transition to something completely foreign that you said you were kind of doing on the side, but you're like, I'm going to do this 100%. So what was the biggest thing holding you back to make that transition?
So, I think the biggest thing holding me back was just, you're kind of standing at this metaphorical cliff, and you're like, well, if I jump off, am I going to land in the water or a bunch of rocks right now? So I feel like it's such a journey of faith. Entrepreneurship is a journey of faith, because yes, it's very much tangible strategies, but so much of it is being able to trust in the unknown, which is exactly what we're dealing with right now. And you see how people are reacting to uncertainty. So it's a very real, it's almost this subconscious drive that your subconscious mind wants you to be safe. So it will do everything in its power to stop you from doing something that could potentially be harmful to yourself, right? So, and I think it comes back to the fact that I'm a rebel. So I've always been like, no, I can do it. I got this. I had kind of been working part-time as a pharmacist, like throughout those 5 years. Then I moved to Pittsburgh, and I was doing I wasn't working as a pharmacist. So I had little, I dipped my toe in the water of this experience before. but then I was just ready. I feel like, when you're ready and you're fed up with the old way, and you just have to take that leap, and the faith has to be bigger than your fear, as corny as that sounds.
No, I love that. And I think, well, you said earlier, I believe, that most of your pharmacists that you see are in the retail setting, right?
Yeah, a lot of them are. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And most of them are trying to make that, or have, the thought to make that transition to
Absolutely.
more of an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I attract a lot of healers, because that's the energy the energetic coding that I have. So naturally people are gravitating to that.
I guess what's the most common thing you see people wanting to do from when they're in retail or any kind of pharmacist setting?
So I feel like a natural next transition for people is health coaching, right? Because it's so much in line with what we do as pharmacists. And we do learn some motivational interviewing. I don't know what the pharmacy schools are teaching now, but I know when I was in school, what was it? Wow, 8 years ago. You do the math. We were learning some motivational interviewing, but when I took that course, Integrated Nutrition, it went into a lot more in-depth practices and coaching methods. And I always feel like people always say, well, how did you get your first client, or how does that? And It's just like, just do it. And the more that you do it, it just becomes natural. And now I can look at somebody and talk to them for 5 minutes, and I can intuit their blocks and what's holding them back, just based upon my experience and everything that I've seen, because I've seen a lot in the past 7 years. So you'll definitely develop kind of a rhythm after a while.
Do you feel that, along with already kind of starting the business on the side and doing the nutrition course while you were in residency, do you think the coaching was the next biggest step to help you go make that transition, that kind of pushed you and gave you the guidance and steps to get to the next part?
Well, yeah, I feel like, honestly, the biggest impetus for me is the fact that I had to prioritize my life purpose over the money, right? Because we make a lot of money as pharmacists, right? It's, $100,000, boom, for most people. And for me, that was not as important as my happiness and my mental well-being. So it really depends on where you're at in your spiritual journey, your life journey. Are you willing to sacrifice that for the short term until you build your following and then ultimately create consistent outcome, which is possible. And that's what I teach my clients in Strategic Ascension, which we'll talk about. But I think that, there's so much that goes into it, and it's not a clear cut answer of like, well, you know what? I woke up today and today I feel like quitting my job. It's just, I can't tell you a timeline. You just know it intuitively within your own being that you cannot continue leading this life that, I don't know, for me, it's all about alignment. I want to feel like I'm waking up every day and I'm making an impact in the world. And if you're listening to this and you're a pharmacist and you feel like you're happy in your job, like, I'm not suggesting that everybody transition to be coaches, but I'm just saying, if you have a pull and your soul is calling you to something more, this is available.
Yeah, no, I feel like you hit the nail on the head there. Like, a lot of people, a lot of us pharmacists, the picture we had in mind, that I'm sure maybe you did and I did, was a lot different that I painted in my head, professionally wise, right? When I was in school, and kind of even as a technician or intern, like, I still like painted the picture in the future differently than it actually turned out. You're like, oh, okay, so like this is what it is. Like, I don't know if I, in terms of when I was in retail to start as well, and I was like, I don't know if I could do this forever. Like, I mean, it gets to the point where you're getting a little more miserable each and every day, and you're just like, I want something else, right? You can just tell that, you can just sense it. You're like, I mean, this can't be all, right? You didn't go to school for 6 or 8 years for just this. So I feel like for me, that was my turning point. But I think also when you kind of reflect a little bit on in terms of physical well-being and just wellness, right, or health overall, in terms of, you need to have a balance. So I felt like my work-life balance was really off. And I'm sure a lot of your probably retail, primarily pharmacists, is that a big thing that you're seeing as well?
Totally. Yeah. They're burnt out, and honestly, they need a program that is going to help them, because they want to spend time with their family. They want to be able to relax. So if they're building a business on the side, they want, all right, like, tell me, what are the needle movers for my business, blah, blah, blah. And I'm very to the point, which is probably a really good thing for them, because I don't work with fluff. I'm not like, oh, go do this journal prompt or do blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, this is what it's going to take. I'm going to help you move, get your messaging out there, create a Facebook group, whatever is needed in order for them to accelerate that path. And that's one of the biggest things that I saw when I finally hired my coach, was how quickly I could accelerate that path to actually replacing my pharmacy income. And I did that in 8 months.
That's great.
So yeah, but I put that big investment out there. So people who are listening right now, they're like, oh my gosh, like, how is that possible? You have to put the work in. It's not like I just woke up every day and, clients came knocking at my door. I spent $18,000 on my coach, and I invested big time. And I feel like when you put energetically that out, you're almost saying, okay, like, I'm ready for this. And that's when things start moving, and you're like, I'm serious. You spending that kind of money, you better be serious.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's exactly right though. Like for coaching, and at least for me, before when I really didn't even know there was a thing for pharmacists, for in terms of a specific coach for pharmacists. I knew there was business coaches, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
My wife is a therapist. She got a business coach, and she was kind of the one who pushed me to find a coach. She's like, oh,
that's
like
so
this
awesome.
is really. She's like, oh, this is really, because she has her own private practice, and she has a coach that kind of holds her accountable, and helps her increase that with getting more clients and everything like that.
Right.
But I feel like it's very necessary in terms of sometimes there's certain things that you don't think of, or you don't see.
Yes.
You need to look outside the box, and sometimes an outside perspective can really, all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, I didn't even think about that, and all of a sudden you just save so much time and gain so much traction. It's unbelievable.
Exactly. You hit it right on the head.
Yeah, but I feel like the hardest part for me was probably the spending the money part, the investment,
Right.
because you're already like, I'm going to spend how much, and then but I feel like once you get that out of your head and you really think it through, it's like, okay, if I don't do anything, where am I going to be 10 years from now? Right. Exactly. Where you are, or worse. And then if you do spend this money, where it's infinite, right? You can go anywhere.
I heard this quote, and you just reminded me of it. It's, the pain is not the loss of money, because that's what the brain thinks, or the spending of the money. Yep. It's the missed opportunity, because you can accelerate a timeline to where that 8-month span might have taken me 5 years.
Exactly.
And like you said, people who you have to get past that initial discomfort of like, all right, I'm spending this money, I'm investing in myself. But I've talked to so many people too who they're like, oh, I just spent 5 hours perfecting my website, or I'm like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
You're stressing yourself out. You're already a stressed out pharmacist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can help you. And then some people don't want support, or they're afraid to spend the money, and that's fine. But then, like you said, you risk staying stuck in that same place, spinning your wheels, not getting anywhere. So
it's actually, in a way, I think it's more exhausting, right?
Oh, for sure.
In terms of if you kind of won't accept the help from others. I mean, but as pharmacists, I think we're kind of stubborn. We like to do it ourselves. So it's hard to ask for help, but once you do, I feel like it's makes all the difference.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I love that. And I love how you said too, you were kind of speaking to in terms of like a blind spot that people can't always see what's blocking them, right?
True.
So if you think of driving a car, you can't see it. You can't see the car next to you. So I feel like that's an analogy for, yes, you're so close to yourself every day, and you don't know what could be the path of least resistance that's going to help you, streamline the process and get more clients, or whatever that goal is. So
yes. Yeah. I mean, all going along with that, I love, in terms of how I would say most coaches, a big thing is, accountability, kind of having an accountability partner.
Yeah.
When you kind of try to do it yourself, you can have the longest list and all these goals and all these things that you want to get done. But until you have someone saying, okay, when are you going to do this? And when are you going to let me know? Like, I thought, for me at least, I thought that was like a really good push that I needed, because I knew what things I needed to get done, and obviously there were certain things I missed, like had certain blind spots. But I feel like when you have someone saying, okay, like, when are you going to do that, and how are you going to do it, and when were you going to get back to me, that really helped me. And I'm not sure if that's what you also do with your coachees, or if you kind of have a similar plan or model like that. But actually, I would love to jump into what exactly, how you do your business and what your different parts and what you offer to your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do offer a lot of free content. I have a YouTube video or YouTube channel. So I post a lot of YouTube content on there. I have a Facebook group where I go live every week. I have a newsletter. So there's a lot of different things operating that, that's part of the consistency of building your audience and really getting out there, and that know, like, and trust factor, right? So people will buy and people will trust and say, hey, John, I want to buy your services when they know you, right? So I've been doing this for 7 years. It's so funny how people, sometimes I'll put an offer out there. I'm like, hey, I'm doing this thing. And this person comes out of the woodwork and they're like, oh yeah, I've been following you for 7 years. I'm like, what? I didn't even know you were on my newsletter list. So it's kind of cool to see those things happen. So I have a lot of those, free opt-ins. And then I also have my strategic ascension course, which is what I alluded to before, which it's a combination of that transformation work and solo line strategy. So I love it because it's helping the individual. Yes, there's a foundation where I'm teaching them about magnetic messaging and building their audience, activating their audience, connecting the dots to a sales call, all of those things. But their unique magic is what separates each of those people. And I love really tuning into people and being able to bring that to the surface, because I feel like, you can be in a huge mastermind group and just get lost and be like, oh yeah, like I have a coach, right? It's like when people apply for gym memberships and like, oh yeah, I go to the gym, and it's like, yeah, but you go and you freaking text the whole time. Like,
True.
it's the difference between having a close, intimate group of people who, and every single group that I have, they feel like family, and they feel like it's such a great support system. And I love it because they're able to use their own soul gifts, what God put them here to do. And every single person is different. They put that out there. And when I see, like, for example, one of my clients just did her first Facebook Live today. And that for me is such a huge confirmation of the impact that I make, because I feel like I activate people into their next level. And of course it's them and I'm just guiding them. But I feel like now more than ever, we need leaders. We need people who are ready to represent positivity and goodness and guide people and help the economy grow. Like, we need all of this stuff. So it's just so fulfilling for me to be able to lead this group. So it's a 3-month container, and to see these women really step into their power. So it's a really cool experience.
No, that's awesome. And I feel like in terms of, it's an amazing time to kind of start doing these things in terms of trying to figure out your entrepreneurial side and what kind of niche you could find, whether it could be completely unrelated to pharmacy. Just in terms of it, there's so many opportunities there now where you could do something that doesn't have to be retail pharmacy, doesn't have to be hospital, doesn't have to be anything in that spectrum. It could be, right. You can make whatever you want to make, which I think is so cool. It's a really cool time and good opportunity to be able to do that, I feel like.
Absolutely. I remember, it's funny that you bring that up. You triggered a memory for me. When I went to, I think I was a resident, and I was at some conference, and everybody was like, oh, are you nervous about getting a job? And I'm like, no, I'm going to make my own job. So it is like, I want people out there to realize that this is possible, that it's not just something that other people are privy to. Like, we have so much knowledge, and maybe we don't have business degrees, but there are pharmacists out there doing this. So if you're drawn to health coaching or medical communications, or I have somebody who isn't a pharmacist, but she works to help people dismantle drama, like really anything, you have a gift to give, and you can use it through this medium, through coaching, which is really awesome.
Yeah. And I feel like exactly that, like with the pharmacy field becoming so saturated in terms of certain
you have to innovate.
Parts of there are so many, there's so many opportunities you don't even realize. Coaching is something that if you brought that up when we were in school, I don't think it existed for pharmacists, at least. I'm sure business coaches have existed for a long time, or coaches in general. But that being, if you said today, back when you were in school, I won't say how long ago.
I'm 31. I'll put it out there.
I'm 29. I'm not far behind you. It wouldn't even cross my mind. as being
Yeah.
even an option. I mean, there are so many things out there. I pretty much would have been like, okay, there's academia, there's hospital, residency, and retail. That's pretty much
And
all
fellowship.
and
Yeah.
fellow, yeah. And that's pretty much all I had in my head when I graduated. And to think like, oh, like I could make the same income or probably more if you set your mind to it and be less stressed and have a much better work-life balance and overall wellness by doing something you love. It's pretty amazing, to be honest.
Yeah. And I love that because I feel like this conversation is just so real and you get it. And I feel like these are the conversations that need to be happening
Yeah.
in pharmacy, because I feel like there are people out there, like I said, who don't even know that this exists.
Mhm.
And I love that Alex and you and this whole mission that you're really putting this out there, because it's so needed.
Even for me, like 2 years ago, I didn't even know this was a thing, and now I feel like now I'm kind of trying to spread the word, and we're both trying to get it out there. And I mean, you really want other pharmacists to really grasp onto this idea, and don't let the whole rules of society or the profession becoming saturated slow you down or make you feel like you're stuck in it forever, because there's so many options out there.
Right. Exactly.
And I guess, before we close up, I know I definitely want you to give out your information so everyone can reach out to you if they're interested. Do you have any, on top of that, any resources, any books, any podcasts that you're listening to currently that you recommend to other people who maybe are just trying to
Yeah.
learn
Oh
new
yeah.
ideas?
Pharmacy podcast, big time. He's Todd Urey. He's my number one. I love him. Oh, I listen to so many podcasts, and I've been on a lot of podcasts. So actually, if you go on my Instagram, I use Linktree in my link in my bio, and you can go. I have a ton of free resources in there. I have a 7-day training for pharmacists who are interested in growing their own business. It's called the Accelerate Training. I have ton of free resources if you go on my website, which is Enlightened Wellness PA as in Pennsylvania.com. And I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, feel free. Contact me in whatever whatever way. Facebook, Instagram, Dr. Christina Tarantola. And we will, we'll chat. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a blast. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, guys, thank you again so much for joining me today on the Happy PharmD podcast. I really hope you got a lot of useful and helpful information from today's episode with Dr. Christina Tarantola, especially if you're looking, out there to try to find ways to start your own business or to grow a business that you've already started, or even if you feel stuck where you currently are professionally and are just trying to learn about and discover other options that are out there. Hope you got a lot of information and a lot of resources to start that process to improve your well-being and professionally and personally, and along with your well-being and your personal health as well. Especially if you do feel burnt out, stuck where you currently are, I really feel that this is a perfect time to determine what it is that really makes you happy and what you feel that you could do to grow professionally. It doesn't even have to be pharmacy related, like we said earlier in the episode. Really anything that you feel brings you joy and that you could really help spread the word to others and to make a difference out there. Also, I just want to remind everyone out there again that we are offering our free web class at the happypharmd.com/begin. So to help explain how pharmacists can escape burnout, get job offers regularly, and finally take control of their career. Again, it is 100% free at the happypharmd.com/begin. Thank you guys so much again for joining me today. We'll see you next time.